I hear there's been a falling out between Madonna and Cher. They're no longer on a first-name basis. Let us take a moment to turn our attention to archaeology and ancient literature. All archaeological evidence to date indicates that for the vast majority of human history, we were nomadic. That is, we lived always on the move, never establishing any permanent dwellings, and never possessing anything we could not carry. But then for some odd reason, some of us decided to break this tradition, and there arose the first communities. These expanded in different ways, leading to the first country, Sumer, which would shortly expand into Mesopotamia. The term Mesopotamia means the land between the two rivers. The two rivers in question are the Tigris and the Euphrates in modern-day Iraq. The Mesopotamians left behind a lot of literature, art, and technology, which was very crude by our standards, but of course was cutting edge at the time. Technology which was instrumental in paving the way for all the wonderful things we take for granted today. Now, one very interesting piece of literature they left behind was a story called Gilgamesh. The title of the story is also the name of the main character, who is a Herculean colossus of a man, although it would be centuries before it would occur to anyone to describe him with quite that choice of words. Gilgamesh is the champion of his people, both the most formidable citizen and the king of Uruk, which I understand was the Mesopotamian capital. What's especially curious is that at first our hero is more of a villain who torments his subjects, sometimes killing someone with his bare hand for no particular reason, and forcing every girl born in his kingdom to save the first night of her marriage for him. This continues until his subjects cry out to the gods to do something about the situation. The gods send Enkidu, who remains a wild man until tamed by one of the goddesses. Enkidu is physically comparable to Gilgamesh, and so when the confrontation finally happens, it's quite a fight. But Gilgamesh finally wins, and having finally met a worthy adversary, the two become the best of friends. After that, for much of the story, the two set off on one harrowing voyage after another, taking on several monsters who threaten the people of Uruk. This continues until Gilgamesh declines the sexual overtures of one of the goddesses, who in her wrath over having been scorned, unleashes the Bull of Heaven upon Uruk. Of course, given all their experience taking on other monsters, Gilgamesh and Enkidu together make relatively quick work of this one, and the goddess in question, in her subsequent wrath, arranges the death of Enkidu. Grief-struck by the loss, our hero arranges a fitting funeral, walling up his friend's remains in a tomb ornately decorated with lapis lazuli, then sets off in search of a means to control death. This new quest leads him to the world's only immortal, a man named Utnapishtim. Now the reason I'm bringing all this up is the interest with which I regard the story of how Utnapishtim earned his immortality. Apparently the gods were fed up with humanity and were planning to drown us all out with a sweeping flood. But one of them had second thoughts, and warned Utnapishtim, who decided that his family and all the animals in the world did not deserve extinction. So he built a huge boat, in order to protect his family and two of every animal. Then the rains came, and the waters rose and covered the world, and then the rain stopped, and Utnapishtim opened the window and released a robin through it, who returned a while later, having apparently found no place to rest. The next day, he did it again, and I'm sure you can predict how the rest of the story went. Finally, the waters fell back to their previous level, and the gods, having discovered the actions of Utnapishtim, were impressed by his resourcefulness and determination, and rewarded him with immortality. Now consider this. Hardly a week goes by in which there isn't some Christian archaeologist claiming to have found the remains of the ark from the story of Noah, therefore giving credence to the Bible. Unfortunately for him or her, this is continuously refuted, often within the Christian archaeological community itself. Usually it is found that the remains are not of a huge wooden boat, but something else. But now let us consider this hypothetically. What if at some point the remains are proven to belong to a gargantuan wooden boat? Will such give credence to the veracity of the Bible, or to the story of Gilgamesh?